trying to win a car race.
Should be a good one.
And as you're driving, saying, hey, make it run better.
You could have a posse of waifus.
Starting off kind of strangely.
Slaying the land.
Welcome to the show.
This is insanity!
Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week.
This info is pretty shocking.
Somebody's got to give an answer to this.
This is Augmented Reality.
You are watching my favorite channel.
I've not heard of them.
The Triple S League. Enjoy, guys.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast, your source for news, leaks, and analysis of games in the gaming industry. Coming at you live on YouTube and Twitch and archived almost anywhere you could find podcasts. This is Ash here with you for the next hour or so, along with Cybsidian and Moontag, of course. Cyb, who's probably loopy on painkillers, and Moontag, who is just adorable as always. How are you doing this evening?
Oh, good. I am now cat trapped with the commander on my lap. She's hunting shadows.
That rhymed. I don't know if you intended that.
Anything you do with cats always rhymes.
I'm a cat trapped with a commander on my lap. That could be one of those rap songs that nobody knows what it means, but it's like rockets to the top of the charts for some reason.
Right.
Oh man, you want to see Moontag rap? Become a $20 patron, and she'll do a personalized rap. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Not, you know, I mean.
I can read poems and stories.
She will actually do a custom avatar of you if you are a patron at the Big Damn Hero level or higher, and that's something we're going to be making official very soon. She's already been working on those. They take some time, but yeah, Robin's going for another lap. Yeah, exactly.
Woo!
Was that another lap like another person's legs, or another lap like around the racetrack? Nobody knows. Where's your song? Yes, exactly. All right, everybody. So, welcome, Moon. Do your plug thing.
Yeah, so pay tribute to the algorithm gods. And make sure you smash that like button and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And if you want to keep the conversation going, you should definitely join the Discord afterwards. There has been an explosion of cuteness in the animals channel today. I found pictures of baby platypuses, as well as I was playing Genshin Impact, and I got the most adorable character. Oh my gosh, she's got cat ears and a tail, and she's colored like a calico cat, and she has attitude. Oh my gosh, so honking cute. So if you want to come see what I've been up to, yeah, come join the Discord.
Sorry, I'm just slightly dying over here. That was really funny. Your commentary is hilarious. We got to hear more of it.
Wait.
All right, everybody. Yeah. Welcome to everybody who is live in the live chat and live if you're watching on Twitch as well. Shout out in the chat, and we will let us know you're there. Robin, Kisuke, Yagos, Robin, a bunch of our regulars. Niv was here bright and early. All right, so yes, we're going to be talking about Fallout 76 today. Now, I know there's a lot of mixed feelings about this game, and that for some of you it's old news, but this is fairly big news, and I mean, you can call it even if it wasn't a relatively slow period in news, this would be pretty big news. For all that Bethesda did wrong with Fallout 76, and we posted that clip of Todd Howard admitting that there was pretty much nothing they didn't screw up with Fallout 76. And
quite literally nothing from packaging to delivering to copies of the game to everything that happened with it.
It was unbelievable. Yeah. It was unbelievable. They caused a worldwide canvas shortage. I mean, just everything.
And he admitted that there was basically nothing that they didn't screw up. And this is very, very true. They really did screw up everything with that, and we're not going to repeat that, but this is mostly interesting, and why I want everybody who if you're kind of like inclined to skip this, please stay, because we're not going to be covering the nitty gritty, the small, too much of the small stuff. We're going to be talking in a lot of generalities, and we're going to be covering a handful of questions that were asked in the AMA that went on today. But what really we want to focus on here, is what is the relationship with Microsoft doing at Bethesda and doing for their games. And the one that I think we will see the most effect from first and foremost will be 76. We're going to see what happens with 76 on a technical and on a content perspective. That's what we're going to see come out of the studio, and that's going to reflect what Microsoft is bringing to the table here. And it's a lot of stuff, and it's a lot of stuff that we want to be very cognizant of, because this is going to affect all BioWare and even a lot of Microsoft games moving forward. There's a lot of tech that there's a lot of tech that Microsoft bought with the Bethesda deal. There's too many B's and words.
Too many game companies start with B.
Yeah. So there's a lot of stuff going on. And I'm not suggesting that you go out and try 76 right now. I really, actually, we were talking about the review process, and I was asking some community members what their thoughts were and if they would be willing to come back. And what we want to do is we want to set aside some time, and this is probably, honestly, going to be late this fall, if not early winter. And what we're going to do is we're going to carve out a little bit of time to hit 76 as a community, and see how much they've improved. And basically, we're going to play it for about a week, maybe a little bit more, maybe a little bit less, and we're going to see how the experience has changed from the initial launch. So that's more or less the plan. So why are we talking about it today? Well, today was what they did their layout of everything that they have coming.
Yes, they've posted their big Inside the Vault 2021 roadmap. It's pretty extensive. They also did a big AMA. Two of the guys from Bethesda over there working on this game, they did a big AMA. As you can see, I'm going to scroll down here. This is a summary of a lot of the answers they gave. So there's quite a bit of information in there, and we don't have time to go through it in depth and detail. And in fact, I don't even know if that would be very interesting. But no, a lot of this stuff, a lot of the AMA stuff was specifically targeted at current players, like currently existing players. I have not been able to see and go through absolutely every post because there's a lot here. And it's kind of difficult to glean that stuff out. And again, we're not interested in jumping in this, and I don't recommend necessarily somebody jump in this in the next couple of weeks or even this week or whatever, because we do have several games coming out over the next few days, over the next few weeks. Some really big ones that have been long anticipated. Humankind is up there on my list. I am so excited to play that. That is an awesome game that is on the top of my list. That's late April. We've got Outriders on April 1st. We've got a whole bunch of games that we are going to be covering quite extensively, and these are good things. These are things that are progressing really, really well. So we want to get a chance to dive into that, obviously. But as far as answering the question on this, really what we're looking at is how is this going to be shaping the future of Microsoft? How is this going to be shaping the future of Bethesda, and what's all going to happen there? And the biggest thing that we can answer is by looking at one of the, I think is really the only live service that's currently live and they have a vested interest in growing, and that would be 76. Do I think 76 is going to make a big comeback and be like one of the top 5 played games on Steam or the Microsoft Play Store at any time? I don't know about the Steam. I kind of really doubt it. On the Microsoft Play Store, I know that their numbers are a lot higher. Now, they're not public, but I know that they are very high. And they are putting a lot of resources towards this game going forward. And that's one of the big things that we are going to chat about today, because one of the problems that people have had for a long time is the private servers. I had a huge problem with it. I wanted a private server that we could set up for a community
and just the way that they have it set up now, it is not worth it in any way, shape, or form. It is so minimal and so small, and it's just gross and disgusting, and maybe we'll never get around to it because maybe there'll be no reason to ever go back to it in the future. But it is one of those community things that I really would like to experiment with the community with, is having these games, and probably honestly, by the time I'm worried that by the time Bethesda and Microsoft finally get their act together, I worry slightly that at that point we're just going to be playing, Baldur's Gate all the time, and we won't have any time for it, even if it is miraculously recovered. So, yeah.
On the note of private servers, for their fall update, they're teasing us with this evolution to private worlds. So they say, stay tuned. Stay tuned for more info.
So I have a little bit of info on that. So one is going to be server size, and then there is going to be a lot of survivability things added to the options. So basically, there's a ton of stuff that's coming down that road that may look like where we want it to go. One of the reasons why Bethesda had such a garbage, showcase with this was just because of the server tech. They didn't have access to like top of the line server tech to run the Fallout game servers on, and so they constantly were, if you don't have access to something you own, then you're renting it, right? And if you're renting it based off of your short term, meaning that 1 month you're going to be renting, say, 5,000 units, and then the next month you're going to be renting 10,000 units, and then the next month you're going to be renting 2,000 units, and it's really going back and forth like that, and you don't know what's happening, month to month. You're paying a premium. You're paying a top dollar premium for those servers. With them coming to Microsoft now, that gives them the buying power. It also gives them the hardware power to host their own servers in which they own, way more than what they've done before. And because of the way that the Xbox system is set up, they have just massive server farms that they can dedicate to this, and they can shift on a whim. If suddenly 20,000 people move from playing one game to another game, their servers are designed to be able to just handle that. So this is a big thing, which means that now that they have this access to this hardware, their software is going to start to reflect this. And again, fingers crossed that this is what they do. So what I'm seeing and what I'm kind of hearing from the way that they're talking about some of this stuff, the way that Microsoft appears to be stepping up, is they are going to be offering way more options for servers. And server stability for private servers are going to get much, much stronger. We're talking potentially about having the player in cap being increased significantly. We're talking potentially having them have permanent servers online so that you and your friends can just log into the same server whenever they want to. And so that way you could actually set up a community. And it's already been hinted at quite strongly in the AMA today that they will be doing more development plans when it comes to PvP for private servers, meaning that you can right now. There's a lot of people that just don't really activate PvP whatsoever. They made 76 with the idea that everybody was going to be PvPing all the time, and it is in fact one of the most kindest and non-aggressive communities in the entire gaming world, which is really shocking and weird. And it says something about Fallout, right? Like it says something about Fallout and what a community is behind it. And again, this is something that they should have known, but they didn't know because whoever was running the show was an idiot at the time. But that's what happened. Is it's a very friendly world, and I think that the art, the style, the concept, the community people that have been involved in this for decades, I think those people have created a really healthy, strong, welcoming community. And I think that's a great thing. And I wish that I could embrace 76 a little bit more, but I can't when it's just so garbage. So that's kind of, that's kind of garbage.
But you've also said many, many times that it's way better already than it was at launch, and it's looking...
it is. But again, I still don't recommend it until we get, like, unless you're a big fan and you're really excited for it and you really love the gameplay. Again, I'm not recommending it until we get probably to the fall, because again, it's just they don't have all of those new improvements added in right now. These are things that are coming, and so obviously it's stuff that is going to take a little bit of time to kind of like hone in and build upon. So when that happens, I think we're going to see some good stuff. So yeah, it was actually Juicehead who asked the question about player versus player, and the response was that they have up and coming updates to the private worlds that will enable PvP, any number of PvP elements, as well as hardcore survival elements as well.
So it's sounding like you're going to, this is what you wanted from the beginning, Cyb. You wanted to be able to set up a private world, private server, where you have control over the rules. You can set it to be whatever you want.
I wanted to set up two. I wanted, first of all, to cut out all of any items that you could buy with the exception of like purely cosmetics. I wanted to cut out all of the garbage stuff from the store, and have it so that, and then maybe import a handful of mods, and then be able to make one server dedicated to PvP and just open like anything goes, literally anything goes, and then have another world where its PvP is essentially turned off.
Yes.
And then just have it so that players can play as they want to, and just have fun, right? Like and just like come up with like interesting ways to like work together and come up with some cool content. Because again, for the longest time, this is all I wanted in this game. This is all I ever really wanted from the game, was the ability to engage with the community and play some cool stuff, and have some fun adventures. And for the longest time, that was so impossible. You could have fun if you're playing with a group of people in the right scenario, but it was never enough, and then it was just not easy enough to like do that kind of stuff just on the initial release. Now it's improved greatly since then. They've made a lot of improvements, but they still have a very, 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 very long way to go.
Indeed.
So,
yeah. All right. I do want to say one thing before we get to some of the chat messages we have about this. As far as we can talk about everything that Bethesda did wrong with this game, at very least, they are sticking to their promise to stick with this game and continually improve it. Unlike a certain other company that starts with B, who is also owned by a large mega corporation now, so BioWare, and they just up and dumped Anthem.
Yep.
And
and we knew it. We knew that they were gonna. I knew that they were going to do it day one.
Yeah, like I was going to say earlier, when we posted that clip of Todd Howard admitting they did everything wrong, we got some pushback. Most of you liked seeing that clip, but we did get some pushback from some commenters saying, why are you fixating on this? It's got a very healthy community. It's got, it's actually a pretty good game. And you know what? I don't disagree with any of that. I don't disagree with any of that at all. And if there's, for those of you, and I know there are many out there who are still playing Fallout 76 and enjoying it, and that's fantastic. I'm glad. Like anytime anyone has a game that they enjoy, whether I like it or not, doesn't matter. I don't care. I'm just glad I'm glad there are people that are enjoying this game. And because of that, I am glad that Bethesda is carrying it forward and working on continually making it better. Unlike what EA did to the fans of Anthem, which I imagine there were fewer of them, but they were still there, and we heard from them when we posted our preview about, and no ill will toward, most of them were actually very, very kind, not nasty comments. We did get some, but, most of the comments we got saying, this is actually, a good game that I enjoy. Most of them were, very, just reasonably stated comments of disagreement. Let's put it that way. You know, it
Mhm.
weren't nasty stuff. And so
Yeah.
I feel bad for those people who were playing Anthem and enjoying it, and now it's
Well,
just going to be gone.
Yeah, and I mean, I made it a point to say to them to begin with is like, look, I'm not dancing on this grave. Like I'm saying, I told you so. Not necessarily not to the fans, but to the big mega corporations and to some of the press that fluffed this thing up like crazy, and certainly to the devs. Like you know, there was a particular dev that I stopped talking to because they assured me that this was going to be the greatest game I'd ever played. A week before launch, he assured me that this would be the greatest game I ever played. I'm like, did you even play it? Like, what in the world? So this is why this game is a barometer. Fallout 76 is now a barometer. It looks as if so there's some current rumors coming out about Bethesda now. There's supposedly some stuff coming out sometime soon for news and stuff like that. And I would not guarantee that we're going to get a release this year. I would say it's very much up in the air right now. There's a lot of rumors going around. It's hard to tell which rumor is correct or what has proper weight to it. And so right now we don't know what's coming out from Bethesda or any of their sister studios this year or even next year. We really don't have any idea what's going on where. And due to the whole world situation, due to a bunch of economies basically teetering right now, I think promising anything and announcing anything. I heard yesterday that Square Enix guaranteed a game release in 2023, and I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you guaranteeing a game release in 2023? You have no idea what's going to happen over the next 5 months, let alone the next year. Why on earth are they? Why do these stupid companies come out and say, yes, we're going to launch a game in 3 years from now? What? Like, did you not learn anything from the last 2 years? In the last 5 years in gaming? Like, literally fries my brain. So, really dumb, really stupid. I don't know why they came out and said this. But that said, my point being that it looks like we may not have any game until next year from Bethesda, just due to restructuring, due to these new companies, due to a lot of stuff that could be maybe and possibly
aside from the ones that were already preset to come out, like we've got Deathloop coming, etc.
Yeah. But those games are basically like they were essentially almost finished, like pre purchase, right? That's why they're not changing the release schedule on Deathloop. They're still doing that thing with Sony because of that.
Yes, Microsoft is releasing some PlayStation exclusives. It's rather funny.
Yeah, it's kind of hilarious on that case. So excluding the stuff that was like preamped, so unannounced. That's the word I was looking for. So unannounced games dropping from post buyout. So that would be Starfield, that would be Elder Scrolls 6, obviously, which is way down the road, unfortunately. And then a bunch of other games. That's all stuff that's coming out post. And there's a ton of that. And so, basically, I think we've got a bit of a long road here. And again, 76 is going to become the barometer for exactly how positively this relationship is going to be. And again, I don't think we're going to be able to tell that in the spring content. I think we're going to see a little bit start to come in the Steel Rain content, which is going to be the summer content. I think where it will really start to take off is the fall content. And again, if we get to the fall and it's just kind of like a meh, then, probably won't ever cover the game again. But if it's like, oh, wow, this is really interesting. This is really cool. We see some really cool stuff here. And then not to mention that we're going to see an explosion of players through the Xbox Pass hitting this game as well. So all of this stuff included, I think we're gonna, if it goes good until fall, and we're going, all right, I've been seeing some interesting stuff here. This is really interesting. This is fascinating. Then at that point, it definitely warrants a second look from at least our community and getting a bunch of people together and saying, all right, so for this week, first week of whatever, or week from Sunday to Sunday on whenever to whenever, we're gonna get together and we're gonna play this game a fair bit, usually probably during a dip or something like that. And if at the end of it, we're going to get a whole bunch of the community people, get their comments, get their ideas on tape, basically review what is there, how it's looking, and then decide whether or not, you kind of give a review based on that. So it's going to be kind of a community review. I'm really excited about it. I've been talking to a few people. I'm really excited for this because this is going to be so cool. Because
we can find enough people who already own the game, which I imagine there are a bunch.
But yes, because I don't, again, until they can prove that they're really committed to this, and I think they're getting really close, I don't advise people buy this game. I cannot advise anybody to buy this game right now. If you can try it for free, try it for free. If you own a copy and you want to be like, they really burned me on this, but let's see what they have to offer there, maybe check that out. If you don't like the system, stay away from it. If you don't want to be ruined on a bad game, don't play it at all.
It is available on Game Pass now too, so that'll be or it will be soon, actually, or I'm not sure how that works, but it will be available on Game Pass, I'm sure, by that point when we're doing that. So a few comments from the chat here. Yagos says we need that t-shirt that says mistakes were made. Moon might want to make a note of that. I'm sure you could come up with some cute artwork for that.
Yes.
Yagos also says we should also discuss this. Discord might get bought by Microsoft. Yes, I do actually have that story pulled up. There's not much to talk about here other than that Microsoft is, according to this reporting, this is from CNET, and they got the info from, actually, I'm not sure. But anyway, Microsoft is in negotiations to acquire Discord for $10 billion. And I'm just coming to the conclusion that journalists do not know what Discord is, because you see the tagline here. The app allows gamers to talk while playing video games. That's like 5% of what Discord does. So, okay. Whatever. And there was reporting on it, like, what was it we were talking about on the Saturday show also, that just, yeah. No, it seems so many journalists and others just don't know what Discord actually does. But anyway, it may be owned by Microsoft. And you were saying, Cyb, that, I mean, you'd prefer for them to remain independent, which I agree. But currently, they have Tencent owns a large stake of Discord, and you prefer Microsoft owning it to Tencent owning it.
I mean, in any event, I really dislike amalgamation of services and content. I really do. I really don't think that it's healthy. I think that there's a place for megacorps, but in all honesty, I preferred shopping in the local grocery store when it was a co-op that was part owned by pretty much everybody I knew. I think that that's a great way to do a bunch of services and a bunch of things. And really, when it comes down to it, I'm kind of like a hardcore libertarian that way. I think that I think that it should be way easier to build cars and sell them. I think that the fact that you have to, if you're going to build a car and then have it street legal, that you've got to pay millions upon millions of dollars for that process, I think that's kind of weird. I think that we're at a level of technology today that we can do a lot better, and that would foster a whole lot more. I mean, it would foster local economy growth, but it would also foster a lot of innovation. Because right now, if you want to innovate on vehicles, if you want to innovate on other things, it's really hard to do that. And where do we see a lot of the innovation in the tech industry? That's in the gaming sector, where indie companies, really the tech sector in general, is like you see a lot of indie companies that start to come up with new ways of doing stuff. I remember when I installed Discord, in lieu of updating the latest version of TeamSpeak. And I gotta say that I was kind of impressed with how much it had changed when it comes to how much Discord had changed the game in the way that they had done like audio-based platforms. Now, guilds and communities have an actual place to like stay connected, and you don't lose people nearly as much because you forgot a login server. You know, the days of like Ventrilo and trying to remember, wait, is the port access 9003 or 9008? Or no, you're thinking of the other server. It's 5004. It's like stuff like that is like, oh my goodness, that was mental back in the day. But we've come a long way since then, and I think that, you know, this kind of stuff is good. But in the case of any scenario, I would prefer to have any company be not owned by Tencent, because of the associated.
If you have to choose the lesser of two evils. I'm not a fan of mega corporations buying up everything in sight either. I think they become too big and too powerful, and it leads to bad things in many cases. But anyway, this may be happening now. Does that mean they might buy it out completely and it would no longer be publicly traded? Like I don't know how these things work, because right now it's publicly traded, right? Because that's how Tencent owns a large percent of it.
No, I think they bought in a slice of it. They invested directly.
Okay. Anyway, Wooly Ram says, "Oh joy, who's looking forward to having Discord integrated with Windows 10?" Puke emoji. Oh my goodness.
Robin says, "Do not speaketh such sin."
Yes.
Wooly Ram.
Or requiring a Microsoft account, he says. I mean,
yeah.
When they did
just to answer the question on that, it is a privately owned company. Individual investors cannot buy or trade shares with the company. So yeah,
okay.
It's all private. So basically, if Microsoft comes in and says, "Hey, we're going to buy you out," because of the way that the purchase is structured, Tencent would have very little recourse, because they're not majority share owners. They would just basically be like, "Oh no," and they would get a payout, and then that's it. Then they would be.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
But yeah, when they did the integration when they did that Skype integration with Windows, that was a nightmare.
That was.
And the reason we use Discord when we're doing these podcasts is because it's the only tool that we could find that didn't mess with our microphone volumes in the system, but where we couldn't see it happening. Like literally everything at Skype, Google, whatever the Google one's called. We tried some others, and they would, like right now, I have complete control over how loud I am and how loud Cyb and Moon are.
The person who invented or came up with the idea to have that, and most people are kind of familiar with what I'm talking about. So mostly on like VoIP programs, but also on like certain phones, when you're using certain phones, when the person that you're talking to on the other end doesn't say anything, you start to hear this like pitch that starts to like get louder and louder and louder and louder and louder. That's this augmented voice system where they amplify the sound of their speaker because they think that maybe you've moved the thing and you're talking off to the side, and so they ramp up the volume on their speaker to a point where it gets to be a literal loud buzz. And that's so annoying.
Yeah.
And it drives me absolutely mental. And why anybody who thought that this was a good idea in any kind of a program, especially audio recording software, is an absolute and total idiot who should never, ever, ever add or create anything in a text space ever again. Because that is how much that stupid thing has been a frustration to me for. It's not just doing the YouTube channel now. I have been struggling with this thing since I was doing audio for acting for like well over a decade. Well, almost 2 decades ago now. I'm old. But yeah, it's like this is painful and frustrating on every level and has absolutely no inherent worth to anything in the gaming industry. Yeah, for years, Keyscape. Absolutely. For dang years.
Dang years.
So yeah, I'm not happy with this, but I am happy that I will sleep a little bit more soundly, not a lot more soundly, but I will sleep a little bit more soundly if I know that Tencent does not own a majority stake in Discord and Microsoft does.
At least I know everything on our server is not getting reported to the CCP. But just the FBI and all of those, they'll be the ones watching us now, which I'm slightly more comfortable with. Although some days it's a toss-up. Anyway, a couple other small stories before we get to the big stuff. The Epic Games Store could be draining your gaming laptop's battery life. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm laughing, but I just find this really funny for some reason. Report finds that the Epic Games Store app could be sucking an unusual amount of life out of your precious gaming laptop. So they ran some tests on this, and apparently, if you've got the Epic Games Store running, it can really lower your battery life. Mm-hmm. So just bear that in mind if you are gaming on a laptop. After receiving some inconsistent results on their battery tests, they discovered that the Epic Games Store app was still running hidden in the taskbar and was having a drastic effect on the tablet's battery life. I hate it. Hate it when programs do this. Mm-hmm. Don't be running in the background unless I tell you to be, and then make it clear that you are there. So, one of my pet peeves in using computers. Programs that it's like it takes 14 different steps to actually close them, including opening your task manager and killing the process. And that's the only way you can get it to stop. And then 5 minutes later, it's running again because it has another program that constantly checks to see if the program is running. And if it's not, it starts it up again. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's absolute garbage, and I very much dislike. Very, very much dislike companies and games that do that. I really, really hate it. I really hate it. Terrible.
But there are some tricks. I mean, if you can go into the task manager and tell you can tell your computer to not allow certain programs to start at startup, but even that doesn't always work. So it's really frustrating. You'd think Windows would be able to control that better, but anyway. PlayStation is reportedly shutting down their PS3, PSP, and Vita digital stores pretty soon, and so now we're getting to the point where everything being digital and online. This is one of the potential fallouts. Is that eventually there's just going to be stuff that's no longer available. Now, I would imagine this. I don't know for sure, but I would imagine this means that even if you own a game through one of those stores and have removed it from your local system, it's just gone, isn't it? It doesn't seem like if the store is gone.
No, if you have to factory reset your PSP that you have you've preserved in excellent condition, and you've got to boot it up, at some point there will be nothing there. There will be no way to get access to anything that you bought on the digital store.
Yes. Now, all of these systems have physical media drives, but whether it's, actually, I'm assuming, I know the PS3 does. I'm assuming the PSP and the Vita have like cartridges you can plug in.
Yeah, pretty sure.
So if there's you might be able to find a physical version of the game, but of course then you have to buy it again. And the prices are probably going to go up because the whole supply and demand thing. So here we go. This is where it starts. Now, it, at least, I mean, I would imagine there's not a lot of people that are playing PS3, PSP, and Vitas anymore, but the concept of ownership is really brought into question. Like, you bought a game for this system. It's like if you bought, if I bought a book 30 years ago and they're using completely different printing methods now, I could still read the old book, right? But if I only own a digital version of it and the store goes down and it's not on my this thing anymore, so what does ownership mean anymore?
Yeah, that happened to me on my Xbox. I had this beautiful like platformer game that reminded me a bit of Ori, but something happened. It got removed to make space or whatever, and I went to go hunting for it in the store again, and I couldn't find it for the life of me.
Really? And so you own it, or you had bought it, but it's just not there anymore. It's
not there. So I was not pleased with that. Made me very less inclined to buy games on there.
Well, Dustin Pease says, I'm in the boat that Sony needs better game preservation efforts, to be honest. I agree, and I think that there should be some kind of system set up that they can identify you as a person, and if you can prove that you bought such and such a game, whether it's 10 years ago, 15 years ago, whatever, then you should be able to have access to that game, regardless of whether or not the platform that you played it on is still in existence. I mean, I suppose then it comes down to well, what if should Nintendo be ensuring that you can play, original Nintendo cartridges now, 35 years later after Mario came out? I mean, I realize it gets complicated, but really, if I owned Super Mario Brothers 3, which I did, shouldn't there be, and there's options available, there are emulators, there's virtual console systems and things like that, shouldn't I be able to still have access and play that game that I got for Christmas when I was a kid? I can still read the book I got for Christmas when I was a kid,
right?
If I want to. So why should I not be able to play that game now? I realize there's logistical complications. So it's a complicated issue. I'm not saying it's not complicated, but it's definitely something that we need to be thinking about more and more. And we have needed to be thinking about it more and more for years now, for a decade, as we've transitioned to largely online digital media. Anyway, I think we can move on from that now. So, there's an AR Pikmin game coming. There's so AR like a Pokemon Go style
I want
thing.
to play it so badly.
What's that?
I want to play it so badly. It's so honking cute. I remember, because my family didn't have a GameCube, so we rented one, but we didn't have a memory card. So my siblings and I, we just played that thing, just for a whole day and a half or something, just to try to make it to the end to get the rocket ship. But oh man, it was so heckin' fun throwing those little guys around. They just kept coming bouncing right back to you. It was wonderful. So cute.
So it's an interesting concept. I really wonder where they're going to go with it. But
yes, I've honestly never played Pikmin, but this looks interesting. I've seen it played. I'm familiar with the concept. I've played other games that are you basically you have cutesy little units. Like each of the different colored Pikmin do different things, right? And so you just have them do things to help you beat a level. Yeah. So anyway, and so that was just interesting. I wanted to bring it up, but there's also another AR game, AR something coming. Space Invaders. Saib, you showed this to me earlier. I don't have a tab for it open, but there was some sort of there's some sort of Space Invaders AR thing coming down the pipe. Go figure.
Yep.
Don't know what it's. They're looking for.
It's quite interesting.
Yeah, there's a trailer for it out now. They're looking for people to play test it.
Mm-hmm.
So we really don't know what it is, but I mean, that would be cool if you could just, if you could be controlling some kind of gigantic machine and see all the space invaders up in the sky descending on your city, and you have to take them out or they destroy your city virtually.
I mean, I mean, it would, like, what they were showcasing was like just enormous, like, Space Invader units, like, floating over cities, and people on their phones like going pew 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 to them, like, from the ground. It's like, okay,
that'd be cool. Like, if there's a bunch of you and you're all shooting at the invaders in the sky, and like they have a certain number of hit points.
And I swear, at some point, this is going to trigger like something, because it's like, it's going to start trending somewhere on something that some city just got taken out by space invaders, and somebody's not going to understand the concept behind this. And
and it'll be that Orson Welles,
Orson Welles all over again.
There was, so if you're not familiar, there was a radio show,
War of the Worlds.
Was that War of the Worlds?
Yes.
I thought it was something different. But anyway, like...
No, War of the Worlds. Orson Welles' War of the Worlds started out as a theatrical performance. It was set over the course of like 3 some odd hours. And it had regular music, and then it had like news interludes. And so if you came home and you didn't hear the intro, and you just turned on the thing, it's like, reporting from Boston, we're seeing some large things in the sky here. And, oh no, the lasers are coming. Oh no, the humanity.
So it was a fictional.
It
was a fictional radio play, but it was, it was done so well that some people were actually convinced that aliens were invading.
Well, even from like prior to and a long time afterwards, not immediately afterwards, but a long time afterwards, Orson did talk about how people were just too trusting of what they heard on radio. There was a lot of information that was incredibly incorrect going around, not unlike the issues that we face today.
Oh, really? This is not a new thing.
And and so he was quite. He wanted to do something that would wake up the listening people to be more critical, to think more critically about certain things that they heard on the news. And this level of critical thinking, it just kind of came out of nowhere, and immediately following this, and then it has slowly disappeared over the last few years.
Well, nowadays that would just get fact checked and banned on Twitter. Anyway, we should move on to our final story here.
Yeah.
So the lead gameplay designer for Cyberpunk 2077 has left CD Projekt Red. Now I'm gonna butcher this poor guy's name. Andrzej Zawadzki. He started as a junior designer in 2016, worked his way up. He was lead gameplay designer on CD Projekt Red. Now, tell me something. So what kinds of decisions would this guy have had a hand in being in that position?
A lot of decisions that boil down to, the move to first person only, significant role in that. A lot of the gameplay systems that you saw, the way that the cops spawn in, that kind of stuff. It's a lot of like what basically he would have had direct control over. So I'm not, not sad that he's gone. I'm not sad that he's not.
Yeah, well, he's leaving of his own, like, it's his choice.
Yeah. And so basically, I look at this whole scenario and I'm like, all right. Okay, good. Hopefully now, because again, the whole development process, the game is not as bad as some people swear it is. It's not as good, obviously, as everybody wanted it to be. But there were some significant problems in it, and I hope at some point that somebody is going to take it back on track. Why they abandoned the RPG philosophy and chased after the action story. There was so many poor decisions made that it's really kind of sad.
Interestingly, he was, during the course of its development, one of his roles was RPG coordinator before he became the senior gameplay designer. In March, in March 2020, he was promoted to that position. That's that's like half a year before the game came out.
Yeah. So again, not all on his plate. And yeah. So I don't think I don't think that overall it's as bad as some people are like. I don't think he had like total control over everything, but there's clearly like some people who needed, and again, I don't know if he was one of them or if he was not one of them or whatever, but somebody clearly needed to be given a wake-up call, at some point during the late development of this, going, guys, we're making a lot of really big mistakes here, and we need to fix these things. And again, a lot of just the moving away from like more of the RPG elements was a big mistake, I think. And I don't know if it was worse or got better or what. I from what sound of it, it got worse. But yeah, it's just not like, again, hindsight's 2020, and shoulda, woulda, couldas are almost always perfect. So yeah. That's about as much as I can take on it, because we need to see where they're headed, and for that we need to see what the patch is good, what the big patch is going to do, and then what their content that they're going to release down the road is going to be like too. Because right now it's really up in the air. I don't know how much. Like I think they've got a lot of fixing to do, and I hope they can do it before some other game comes and replaces that space on the hard drive for it. So.
Yes, I feel like getting once it's died down, it's really hard to get that player base back. I think we're seeing that with Fallout 76. I think we saw that to a bit of an extent with Anthem. I think No Man's Sky also had that issue. Like they did have a comeback, No Man's Sky did, but nowhere near the player base that they maybe could have if it launched in its current state at launch. If it launched with all the stuff people were expecting with it. Wooly Ram says Cyberpunk would need a full overhaul to become an RPG. At the moment, it's a Sony Ubisoft open world game with progression, stealth elements, and a cinematic story. Yes, indeed. And it's interesting. I've been playing. I've gotten back into Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I'm absolutely loving. It's a game that I regretted never finishing, but just for fun, I've decided to get back into it, and I've thoroughly been enjoying it, and it's blowing my mind what a relatively small studio was able to pull off, both technically and RPG game design-wise. And it doesn't have the as far as I know, I haven't hit the ending yet, but what I've read is that the story is actually fairly linear, but there's a lot of ways you can play things, way more ways than you could in Cyberpunk, which also had a very linear story. But, you were, I don't know, the options were way more limited. So I'm sitting there, meticulously picking out the outfit I'm going to wear for the next quest I'm going on, because, well, if I need stealth, like if I wear black clothing, that actually, makes it harder to see me in the dark, but I'm not going to have very good armor. If I put some armor on over top of it, that's going to cause more noise, and, I risk waking people up or having people hear me. And as I was doing this, I was stopping to think, why didn't Cyberpunk have this stuff? Why was this? It's also excellently written. The characters are very good. Like there's so much good about it that there are some ways where it's more limited than Cyberpunk 2077. Obviously, technically, like Cyberpunk 2077 accomplished something with the scope of the city that you just, haven't really. Although, come to think of it, Kingdom Come Deliverance does have a completely open world with no load times. That just occurred to me. There's no loading times going in and out of buildings or moving to different areas on the map. Interesting. So they were pulling off stuff in 2018 that, as a much smaller studio that we saw in Cyberpunk 2077, but also some stuff that I think we should have seen in Cyberpunk 2077. Niv says, and Henry is a much more compelling character than V, that's for sure. Absolutely, he is. Now, that's the one thing. Like, there's no character creation in Kingdom Come. You're a set character, which I don't mind. It serves the story well. And I don't even mind that the story is kind of linear. I think if there were more branching options, that would be cool. But again, what they did really well. And it seems to me Cyberpunk could have been at least as much of an RPG as Kingdom Come was, and still had some of the other technical, sort of impressive things. And because it's been refreshing being able to sort of ignore the main quest if I want and just go around and do all of these things, the activities in the game. But before Cyberpunk came out, they were like, yeah, there's going to be so much stuff for you to do in the city. It's not there. Kingdom Come, I can go hunting in the woods for 2 hours if I want, until I run out of arrows.
Nice.
I can just take a peaceful walk like that. I can ride my horse around, improve my horsemanship. I can, go on the fighting circuit. There's all this stuff and more. Like, there's just, the NPCs actually have the daily routines that we were expecting to see. Now, I'm not gonna, granted, there are limits to it. There are limits to what I'm saying, because Cyberpunk, in terms of scale, is just a much larger game with a much larger budget behind it, and yet they seem to fall flat. Like, I'm getting some satisfaction from playing this other game from a much smaller studio. I'm getting that RPG hunger satisfied in a much deeper way. It was just
and this is and this is interesting to note, because when you look at this in contrast, right? When you're looking at this in contrast to what they put out, and also to kind of like, I remember when they were the small studio, and when fans of CDPR were taking clips from The Witcher 2 and pretending that they were the next Dragon Age game. And when people are like, oh wow, this is interesting, they would jump out of the woodwork and say, you see, you stupid scrub, that's not that stupid game from that company, it's this new company and it's like, that's just the cycle, right? And it's like these people were like, being all excited that they discovered the fact that games and studios have a life cycle where they get good, then they get too big. Typically, they get too big and they start to fall apart. And then another studio comes up and makes up something else that they did, which is exactly what BioWare did to previous games, or to previous studios and big corps. And then what, they ends up happening to them, and then what ends up happening to the people who replace them. It's like, this is an ecosystem. This is also why you should never want anything like run by the government, because you're never going to replace a system, right? You're never going to replace it. Like once there's a dependence on that system, it's never going away, guys. It is going to stay there forever. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's like you're looking at that from the game perspective, and you're like, yeah, that's interesting to see how much that's changed, right? So yeah, little funny, little silly, but like, yeah, that's basically
Also, speaking of funny and silly, I have to say I'm enjoying the comments in the live chat. Dustin says, well, to be fair, as much as I love Kingdom, all I got from Henry is, I'm kind of hungry, and Henry smash. And honestly,
Henry can get around if you play it a certain way, yeah.
No, that totally just made me think of like Homer Simpson in like some kind of like memory flashback where he's singing a song to himself about being Henry VIII. He's like, Henry VIII, I am. And he's like eating like this massive dinner. So I was like, yep, sounds about right.
Indeed. Yeah, it's they do have that, hunger, and you have to eat, you have to sleep. Thankfully, you don't have to visit the latrine. I'm sure they considered that at some point.
Hey, there's a whole range of Skyrim mods that do just that. Don't ask how I know.
I'm just glad that, they did cap it somewhere, but you do have to make sure to eat, sleep, that kind of thing. So there's a survival element to it. So it's not, it's somewhat of a survival game as well, I guess. But they do have, like, your reputation with factions actually matters as far as I can tell. That's something we were anticipating from Cyberpunk that turned out not to be the case. You can go shoot up a Tiger Claw's hideout and still get quests from that lady that's affiliated with the Tiger Claws, or as soon as it's convenient for them. Like, there's just no faction reputation.
Which is really strange. Yeah. Again, and why people think, like, I really want to start asking these developers who make these games, why do you think these inherent systems that have been around for a really, 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 really long time, why do you think you're just throwing them out? Like, why are you throwing them out? Like, faction system. Why are you not adding that to the game? Oh, because reasons.
Yeah.
Because what reasons? But because, is it hard to do? Well, no. I mean, it's not hard to do. It's just that we don't really think that it's a cool system. Why?
I mean, there are some of these things that make a game a little bit less accessible. If you're trying to attract the FPS crowd, then maybe you don't want to put in-depth survival mechanics. But still, like, yeah, the reputation system, like, if you're... At least, that seems baseline RPG stuff. Like, you start to tick off people from a certain gang, then that gang should be reluctant to work with you. But I mean, it is a complicated system to implement.
And we did see them start to kind of like dump on that concept like early on. And it was one of the many warning flags that I look at now, and I'm like, oh, gee, I wish I'd pay more attention to that. Where it's like, it's like, oh no, we don't really see a point of having a reputation system. Why?
Well, I remember the discussion about saying that you can't join a faction. And
and again, that was one of my like, wait, why? Like, again, from now, like, hindsight 2020, I'm like, that's weird. Why would they say that? Why would they go out of their way to like clarify that? Because, and now we see why, is because they had that there was no intention of like adding that to a system to integrate into the game at all. So yeah, kind of sucky.
Interesting, but that does seem like that it starting to feel like so much of that got canned because they had to put all their focus on doing this new storyline with Keanu Reeves and Johnny Silverhand.
Yeah, and I really think that's
got neglected.
Probably, yeah, and I think that's probably where things started to go south, was that, again, great story, great guy, wonderful memes, but in the end, it's yeah. Oh, did you see the Subverse Johnny the Subverse?
Yeah. They parodied the Johnny Silverhand moment in the Subverse trailer.
Wake up, samurai! We have a universe to burn.
Whoop-de-doo.
Oh, so good.
I mean, it's just like
that game drops in 2 days. Just letting people know. If you are in the know, you know the nose. The nose is saying that, hey, got something cool going on. Maybe.
I actually, that just because of how things went with Cyberpunk, that moment was a little cringy in the trailer, just with the Johnny Silverhand thing.
Right.
But, you know,
a little sad.
It feels like maybe they made that trailer 6 months ago, and they didn't think
they probably wrote it a while ago, and too bad too, because I remember us pitching a trailer idea to them. Right? Remember that? Legitimately pitched an idea to them, and they were like, "Wow, that was a great idea." Oh, yeah, maybe it is a great idea. Maybe it is.
Yes, we have an interesting relationship. Yago says, take all those people to the ocean. They're going to be thirsty once Subverse comes out. They're going to need that ocean. Yeah, the salt will kill them, though. You can't drink ocean water when you're thirsty, or maybe that's what you're getting at. I don't know. I mean, get on, like, Subverse, I have mixed feelings about. As I've expressed on the Discord server.
I think most people will have mixed feelings about it.
Where we are on board with them, and this was the thrust, pun not intended, of the interview we did with one of the developers from Studio FOW over there, was about their anti-censorship stance and how, you know, the game, games like this should have the freedom to exist, and we live in a culture of big tech censorship and everything's getting sanitized. And I think I ranted on the last podcast about how YouTube is censoring swears in the subtitles now. I'm like, I'm a freaking adult. I'm watching a video where somebody's swearing. Why would you blank that out in the subtitles?
Right.
Like, you gotta
read it.
People who are hearing impaired, you don't dare let them read a swear. Like, what the hell?
This brings me to another comment, because we were watching this amazing show the other day where this alien is posing as a human on this planet, and there's this kid who can, like, kind of see through his facade, and he's one of only, like, you know, it's a 1 in a million type thing, but he can see through the facade. And there's this interesting little exchange that they had at some point. I'm not going to spoil the show too much, but the alien said a bad word, and the kid goes, "Hey, sh blank blank is a naughty word. You're not allowed to say that word." If you're a parent and you've been teaching your kids right, if they see a video with, you know, a bad word in it, they, by your training, should hopefully not click on it. They should go, "Oh, that is a bad video. I am not going to click on that. I am going to avoid that." You know, kind of like what my sister did with my nieces when it came to anime. She was like, "Oh no, anime, that's for, you know, nerdy, sweaty, nerd people, boys, and that, like, you know, like animated things. Ew, gross. Okay, girls, you're definitely not allowed to watch this ever." And then whenever I show them anything that's even remotely animated related, they go, "I can't watch that because Mom told me not to." It's like, you know, pulling hair out. Yeah, a little bit of an insight into my family there. But again, in this world that YouTube is building, if a child somehow comes across anything that's bad, they're not being told that they have no way of knowing. And isn't that defeating the purpose? Like, you can't protect everybody all the time. You should spend more time educating people on how they should protect themselves, not literally running around the city. Remember, again, I'm all over the place here with my references today. In Full House, the original Full House series, the oldest daughter, and I can't remember her name because I'm not that much of a fan of it, but this moment stuck with me really, really well. She got her driver's license, and her dad, who's this hypochondriac / like, you know, parental figure thing, he was having issues with it, and he's like, you know, "You're my daughter," and of course, you know, in the show he lost his wife, right? But he's like, "You're my daughter. I don't want you to go, like, I don't want you to get hurt, and I want you to drive safe. And I've decided that teaching you how to drive safe is a lot cheaper than plastering the entire city roadways with foam, like with enough foam to, like, prevent any accidents from being, life threatening. And how do I know this? Because I actually got a quote, multiple quotes actually, as if he actually intended, like as if he, hey, my daughter is learning to drive, and how much would it cost to coat every single boulevard and road and anything that she could potentially drive into with like 5 feet of foam? How much would that cost?
That's a yeah. I mean, it's
$8 billion. You said, okay, probably not going to be helpful.
Silly joke,
right?
but I mean, yeah, it's a silly joke from a '90s sitcom, but that's what it feels like. They're trying to do that now, but not just for kids, for freaking adults. Adults don't have the choice anymore to consume what they want to consume.
Exactly.
And everything is like, oh, well, this will lead to that, and this will lead to that. And, everybody's making these ridiculous hypothetical arguments. And so now we can't, you can't appreciate, the female form anymore in any way, shape, or form as a man, because that'll lead to you doing some horrible thing, which is nonsense. There's no
so funny. I'll mention. It was kind of funny. We were talking this morning, and it's interesting. It's like, yeah. You know what? I'm going to mention this in the Discord. You guys hop on Discord. You can ask me about it. But yeah, no, we got to wrap the show up. But it's shocking how much these companies are trying to control everything, and in doing so, you create the circumstance where nobody knows that bad thing. I think I've mentioned this before. I knew a kid growing up whose parents restricted his exposure to anything war related because they didn't want him to be exposed to violence. So he learned absolutely nothing when it came to World War I and World War II. He saw somewhere a little black symbol thing with a couple of right angle turns in the artwork. He saw that and thought it was the coolest thing that he'd ever seen. And he started writing that everywhere because it was his little thing that he had discovered that looked really cool. Well, I think some of you, hopefully most of you, know exactly what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. This resulted in a near panic situation because of this, and when you ask the parents, they're like, well, we specifically avoided him having this knowledge because we didn't want him to know about all these bad things that have happened in the history of humanity. So like, are you gonna helicopter this guy through his entire life? Are you gonna show up at the movie theater when he's 30 going, my son here is taking his wife to this movie. Is there any fighting in it at all? Is there any war? No, sir. It's the next, it's Bambi 3. It's like, okay, all right. But Bambi had a gun in it last, when I was young. Is there a gun in this one? No, this one's about them, running around in the forest. Okay, good. All right, son, you and your wife can go see this movie. It's that level of of ultimate stupidity, and that's what some of these big mega corporations.
They're trying to be our parents now. I left my parents behind when I, in a healthy way, when I became a certain age, when I could take care of myself and make those decisions for myself. I don't need Mama and Daddy Big Tech telling me what I can and can't see. And we're talking about like an age verified account. Like a verified that I'm an adult with YouTube. And they're still doing this crap. It's garbage. But anyway, like Cyb said, we do have to wrap up. But I hope you've really been enjoying the conversation. We've kind of been, letting it free flow a little bit more after finishing up our news stories and just seeing where the conversation goes and, shooting the shit with chat. Oh, that's going to get censored. Anyway, really appreciate all of you who stick around with us live, especially at this ungodly hour of the night. Well, it's not. It is where we are, but we wanted to have a show that's more accessible for those of you way, way, way over in the east in the magical land of tomorrow. So I'm glad Tomorrowland. So thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate all of you joining us live. And if you're listening after the fact, let us know what you think in the comments below. If you're listening on Twitch, which we don't often get viewers on Twitch, but we are there if that's an option for you. If you want to listen there, plus we have the podcast up as soon as we can on all of the audio-only platforms after the fact. So you can get it however you want. We're trying to make it as accessible as possible. And I want to especially thank all of our Patreon supporters, our channel members on the main channel, and those who boost our Discord server. All of that, very, very appreciated. Really appreciate that. Yeah, really, just we couldn't do what we're doing without you guys. You're opening up options for us to make bigger and better stuff all the time. So, thank you so much. Check out the main channel for some comedy, some game guides. New comedy video out today. We put out game guides whenever there's things we think will be helpful for you, and some other more in-depth gaming content. So yeah, check that out if you're new and if you've just discovered us through the Triple S Podcasts channel. This is a new podcast channel. Our main channel is much bigger, has much more content on it. Check that out as well. Subscribe, and we're slowly trying to build out. Yes, yes, Yagos, nice. Yeah, we're trying to build out the content as best we can, but we have a great community on Discord that really, they keep us going, especially when we sometimes see those YouTube numbers suffering a bit because of various things. The community on Discord really keeps us going, so thank you all so very much. On behalf of Cyb and Moontag, my name is Ash for the Triple S League. Thank you so much for listening today, and we will talk to you again very soon.